Ardennes Forest, December 1944. A sudden, chilling report from the 14th Cavalry Group reached 8 Corps headquarters just after 0700 hours, detailing an impossible concentration of German heavy armor. 5 Königstigers, the formidable Tiger II tanks, had emerged from the morning mist near Poteau, not from a prepared defensive line, but from the unlikely cover of a small churchyard. An unprecedented and strategically alarming development that immediately challenged the prevailing Allied intelligence assessments of German capabilities and dispositions in the sector. The stakes were immediate and profound. If such powerful units could materialize without warning, the entire defensive posture of the American line was compromised. Major Thomas J. Bell, the 8th Corps G2 intelligence officer, received the initial teletype with a skepticism born of months of consistent, albeit sometimes incomplete, intelligence gathering. His unit's ongoing analysis, derived from aerial reconnaissance, prisoner interrogations, and captured documents, had consistently indicated that Tiger II production was limited and their deployment reserved for critical counterattacks or the most heavily fortified fronts. The notion of 5 operating in concert, particularly in a relatively quiet sector, seemed to defy the established logistical and operational constraints of the Wehrmacht. Bell immediately cross-referenced the report against known German unit locations and recent armored movements. The 1st SS Panzer Division, Leibstandart SS Adolf Hitler, was indeed known to be in the general vicinity, but its heavy tank complement was believed to be significantly depleted. His team's most recent estimates, compiled from a meticulous review of damage reports and captured supply manifests, placed the division's operational Tiger II strength at no more than 2 or 3 tanks spread across a much wider front. This new sighting is accurate, represented a 150% increase over the expected number in a single localized engagement. The initial American tactical doctrine, honed against the more numerous but less heavily armored Panther and Panzer IV, relied on overwhelming numerical superiority and flanking maneuvers to neutralize German heavy tanks. A single Tiger II, with its 88mm Kwak 43 L71 gun and 185mm frontal armor, could withstand direct hits from most Allied tank guns at combat ranges, while its own main armament could penetrate any American tank from over 2,000 meters. The unexpected appearance of 5 such vehicles in close proximity meant that standard engagement protocols would be catastrophically insufficient. Bell dispatched a priority request for immediate, low-altitude reconnaissance over the Poteau area, simultaneously ordering a review of all recent aerial photographs for any overlooked signs of heavy vehicle tracks or camouflaged positions. The implications extended beyond the immediate tactical threat. If the Germans possessed more Tiger IIs than intelligence suggested, or if they were willing to commit them in such unconventional deployments, then the entire strategic framework of the Ardennes front would need urgent reevaluation. The prevailing belief that German heavy armor was a rare, almost mythical threat was now facing a stark and undeniable challenge. Normandy, June 1944. The initial intelligence assessments, compiled from aerial reconnaissance and prisoner interrogations in the weeks leading up to the invasion, painted a picture of German armored strength that was both formidable and geographically dispersed. While the presence of heavy tanks, including the vaunted Tiger I, was acknowledged, their deployment was largely believed to be concentrated in strategic reserves, held back from the immediate coastal defenses. This understanding shaped the operational planning, particularly the expectations for the early phases of the breakout from the beachheads. The pre-invasion intelligence summaries, derived from a mosaic of photographic analysis and decrypted communications, indicated a total of approximately 140 Tiger I tanks in the entire Western Front, with fewer than 30 estimated to be within striking distance of the invasion beaches. These numbers were not arbitrary. They were the product of meticulous cross-referencing, comparing production logs captured from earlier campaigns with observed unit markings and reported movements. The sheer industrial output required for such a vehicle, coupled with the logistical burden of its maintenance and fuel consumption, suggested a limited deployment, reserved for critical counterattacks or defensive strongpoints. The Tiger I, with its 88mm KWK-36L56 main gun and thick frontal armor, represented a qualitative leap in tank design, a fact well understood by Allied intelligence. Its 100mm frontal hull plate and 80mm turret face were known to be largely impervious to the 75mm guns of the M4 Sherman at typical combat ranges. This technical superiority, however, was thought to be offset by its mechanical unreliability and the relatively small number produced. Allied strategists, therefore, anticipated encountering these heavy tanks in isolated instances, perhaps as defensive anchors for key positions, rather than as components of a widespread armored screen. The strategic implication of this assessment was a focus on overwhelming numerical superiority and tactical maneuverability for the Allied forces. The M4 Sherman, though individually outmatched, was available in vast quantities, with production rates exceeding 1,200 units per month by early 1944. The plan was to bypass strongpoints where possible, using infantry and artillery to suppress enemy positions, while lighter, faster tanks exploited gaps and maintained momentum. Direct tank-on-tank engagements with Tigers were to be avoided where feasible, with air support and specialized anti-tank units designated for their elimination. The prevailing doctrine, informed by the intelligence picture, was one of cautious optimism regarding the armored threat. While respect for German engineering was evident, the belief persisted that the Wehrmacht's heavy armor assets were finite and would be deployed sparingly. The intelligence community, in its final pre-D-Day briefing, concluded that a massed deployment of Tiger tanks in the immediate vicinity of the landing zones was improbable. This assessment, while seemingly logical given the available data, would soon be tested by the stark realities of the Norman hedgerows and the unexpected concentrations of German heavy armor. The lead Sherman, Cobra, commanded by Sergeant Miller, had barely cleared the shattered remains of the church wall when the first 8.8-centimeter round struck its glacis plate. The impact was not a glancing blow but a direct concussive explosion that tore through the front armor, instantly incapacitating the driver and bow gunner. A geyser of flame erupted from the turret ring as secondary explosions began to rip through the ammunition stowage, turning the tank into a funeral pyre for its crew. The remaining 3 Shermans in the advance, Fury, Vanguard, and Avenger, immediately attempted to traverse their turrets, but the speed of the German attack was disorienting. From the ruins behind the church, a second Tiger, its long guns spitting fire, disabled Fury with a shot to its engine deck, the round penetrating the thin rear armor and igniting the fuel tanks. Black smoke billowed skyward, obscuring the precise location of the attacker for a critical few seconds. The M4 Sherman, with its 75mm M3 gun, was designed for infantry support and engaging lighter armored vehicles, not for direct confrontation with the heavy German tanks. Its frontal armor, a maximum of 63.5mm, was largely ineffective against the Tiger's 8.8-centimeter KWK-36L56 gun, which could reliably penetrate over 100mm of vertical armor at 1,000 meters. The American doctrine had not anticipated encountering such a concentration of heavy armor in this sector, believing these behemoths to be deployed sparingly on critical fronts. The 75mm M3 gun, firing M61 armor-piercing capped projectiles, possessed a muzzle velocity of 619 meters per second and could penetrate approximately 76 millimeters of face-hardened armor at 500 meters. This capability was woefully inadequate against the Tiger's 100mm thick frontal hull and 80mm turret armor, which was often angled to provide even greater effective thickness. The disparity in firepower was not merely numerical. It was an existential threat to every American tank crewman. The third Tiger, emerging from behind a cluster of shattered farm buildings, then targeted Vanguard. Its round struck the Sherman's turret side, a catastrophic hit that caused the entire turret to be violently dislodged from the hull, landing several yards away. The sheer kinetic energy transferred by the 8.8-centimeter projectile demonstrated the immense destructive power wielded by the German heavy tank. The American command had been operating under intelligence reports suggesting that Tiger deployments were limited, with production logs indicating only 1,347 units produced throughout the war, a fraction compared to the tens of thousands of Shermans. This scarcity fostered a belief that direct engagements with Tigers would be rare, a statistical anomaly rather than a tactical certainty. The sudden appearance of 5 in a single, coordinated assault shattered that strategic assumption. Avenger, the last operational Sherman, attempted a desperate flanking maneuver, trying to get a shot at the Tiger's less protected side armor. Its commander, Lieutenant Harrison, ordered a full-speed advance through the debris-strewn street. As the tank lurched forward, another 8.8-centimeter round, fired with chilling precision from a fourth Tiger concealed behind a collapsed barn, found its mark. The round struck the Sherman's track and drive sprocket, immobilizing it instantly. The crew of Avenger began to bail out under intense machine gun fire from the Tigers, a testament to the German tank's integrated defensive capabilities. The coaxial MG-34 machine gun, mounted alongside the main gun, provided a devastating suppressive fire against exposed infantry or dismounted tank crews. The fifth Tiger, which had not yet fired, now positioned itself to cover the retreat route, effectively sealing off any escape. The engagement, which lasted less than 7 minutes from the first shot, resulted in the complete annihilation of the American tank platoon. 4 Shermans were burning wrecks, and the 5th was immobilized and likely captured. The unexpected concentration of enemy heavy armor, combined with its superior firepower and protection, had turned a routine advance into a massacre. The tactical landscape had shifted with brutal finality. The damage reports from the 3rd Armored Division, specifically from Task Force Hogan, began to coalesce into a pattern that defied previous intelligence estimates. Initial contact with a single Tiger was a grave concern. 2 Tigers constituted a significant threat, but the confirmed presence of 5 distinct Tiger I tanks emerging from the vicinity of the Churchyard at Trun shifted the entire operational calculus. This was not an isolated ambush by a specialist unit. This indicated a concentration of heavy armor far exceeding what Allied command believed to be available in the Falaise pocket. Each Tiger, weighing 56 metric tons, presented an armored profile that rendered most American tank main guns, particularly the 75mm on the M4 Sherman, largely ineffective from the front at combat ranges. The 88mm KWK-36L 56 main gun on the Tiger I could conversely penetrate the Sherman's frontal glacis plate at over 2,000 meters, a range at which the Sherman's return fire was a futile gesture. The sheer material density of the Tiger, with its 100mm frontal hull armor and 80mm turret front, demanded a tactical approach that American doctrine had not fully anticipated for an engagement of this scale. Production logs from Henschel and Porsche, later captured, would reveal that by August 1944, approximately 1,350 Tiger I tanks had been produced in total, with attrition rates high, but never entirely depleting the frontline strength to the levels Allied intelligence had optimistically projected for this sector. The concentration of 5 such vehicles in a single engagement zone, particularly within a pocket believed to be collapsing, represented a significant commitment of resources by the German High Command, indicating a desperate and formidable attempt to hold open an escape route. This was not a rearguard action by scattered remnants, but a coordinated effort by a potent, armored fist. The strategic implication was immediate and profound. The Falaise Pocket was not merely a containment operation against a broken and fleeing enemy. It was becoming a crucible where a desperate, well-armed foe was making a concerted stand, leveraging their most potent weapon systems to inflict maximum damage and secure an exit. The 5 Tigers at Trun signaled that the enemy's capacity for organized resistance, particularly with heavy armor, was far greater than previously assessed, forcing a rapid reevaluation of attack plans and troop dispositions. The illusion of a swift, clean encirclement began to dissolve under the weight of these unexpected encounters. The hulks smoldering in the churchyard, their distinctive interleaved road wheels and massive gun mantlets still recognizable, despite the charring, provided a stark, undeniable accounting of the technological chasm. American intelligence, through prisoner interrogations and captured documents, had estimated the total production of the Tiger I at fewer than 1,400 units across the war's duration. This scarcity had fostered a belief, a dangerous complacency, that encounters would be isolated, manageable anomalies. The 5 tanks emerging from the tree line shattered that illusion, forcing a brutal reevaluation of the battlefield reality. The M4 Sherman, the backbone of the American armored divisions, mounted a 75mm M3 main gun. Its high-explosive round was effective against infantry and soft targets, and its armor-piercing shot, the M61, could penetrate approximately 88mm of face-hardened armor at 500 yards. This capability was generally sufficient against the Panzer IV and Stug III, which comprised the bulk of German armored formations. The Sherman's design emphasized speed of production, mechanical reliability, and ease of maintenance, reflecting American industrial capacity and logistical doctrine. In contrast, the Tiger I, designated Panzerkampfwagen 6 Ausfit E, carried the formidable 88mm KWK 36 L56 gun. This weapon, a derivative of the renowned Flak 36 anti-aircraft cannon, could penetrate an average of 100mm of vertical armor at 1,000 yards, with its Peaser 39 armor-piercing ballistic capped round. Its frontal hull armor measured 100mm thick, and the turret face was 110mm, often sloped to increase effective thickness. This combination rendered the Tiger I largely immune to frontal attacks from the 75mm Sherman at standard engagement ranges. Damage reports from the engagement confirmed the disparity. Multiple 75mm hits on the frontal glacis plates of the Tigers had merely spalled, leaving superficial indentations or paint scars, failing to achieve penetration. Conversely, a single 88mm strike from a Tiger was often sufficient to catastrophically disable a Sherman, frequently resulting in ammunition detonation and complete destruction. The American tankers were not merely outgunned, they were fundamentally outmatched in a direct engagement. Their primary weapon rendered largely ineffective against the enemy's heaviest armor. The operational consequence of this technological imbalance was profound. American armored doctrine, predicated on numerical superiority and rapid maneuver, suddenly confronted an opponent whose individual units possessed a qualitative edge so significant it could negate numerical advantage in specific engagements. The encounter forced a painful acknowledgement that the M4 Sherman, while excellent in many roles, was not a tank destroyer capable of reliably defeating the heaviest German armor head-on. This realization spurred an urgent reprioritization of tank destroyer development and the deployment of higher velocity guns, such as the 76mm on later Sherman variants and the eventual M26 Pershing. The Churchyard, therefore, became a crucible, forging a new understanding of the demands of armored warfare against a technologically advanced adversary. The shock of 5 Tigers emerging from a single seemingly innocuous village churchyard rippled far beyond the immediate battlefield. forcing a profound reevaluation within American command structures. Prior intelligence assessments, based largely on scattered encounters and captured documents, had consistently underestimated the concentration and deployment flexibility of these heavy tanks. The prevailing belief held that Tigers, due to their immense weight and complex maintenance, would be parceled out in small, isolated detachments, primarily to reinforce critical sectors or spearhead limited offensives. This incident shattered that perception, revealing a capacity for localized massing that had not been adequately factored into operational planning. Damage reports from the engagement, detailing the rapid neutralization of multiple Sherman tanks and the sheer resilience of the Tiger armor, underscored the tactical disparity. A single Tiger, even operating alone, presented a formidable challenge, but the coordinated appearance of 5 transformed a skirmish into a crisis, demanding an immediate and overwhelming response that was not always readily available. The implications extended directly to troop morale and training. American tankers, previously operating under the assumption that a Tiger sighting was a rare and singular event, now confronted the possibility of encountering multiple such threats simultaneously. This psychological shift necessitated intensified anti-tank gunnery practice, a renewed emphasis on flanking maneuvers, and the development of combined arms tactics that integrated infantry support and close air support more effectively against armored concentrations. The previous doctrine of engaging Tigers with a numerical advantage of 2 or 3 Shermans per heavy tank seemed dangerously optimistic when faced with 5. Intelligence gathering became a critical focus, with an urgent directive to improve methods for identifying and tracking Tiger unit movements. Aerial reconnaissance, previously focused on broader logistical targets, was now tasked with scrutinizing every village, every patch of woodland, for signs of heavy armor concealment. Interrogation files of captured German personnel, once treated as supplementary information, were now meticulously cross-referenced for any scrap of data pertaining to Tiger production rates, allocation, and operational doctrine, seeking to understand the enemy's capacity for such concentrated deployments. The incident also highlighted a critical vulnerability in the American logistical chain: the relative scarcity of high-velocity anti-tank ordnance capable of reliably penetrating the Tiger's frontal armor at combat ranges. While 76mm guns on later Sherman variants offered improved performance, the sheer volume of 75mm armed tanks in service meant that many units lacked the immediate firepower to counter such a threat effectively. This prompted an accelerated push for the deployment of tank destroyers and specialized anti-tank artillery, acknowledging that the battlefield had become far more lethal than previously modeled. The presence of 5 Tigers in one place fundamentally altered the calculus of engagement, moving from an expectation of isolated threats to the stark reality of concentrated, devastating power. It was a brutal lesson in the fluidity of enemy capabilities, demanding a rapid and comprehensive adaptation across all levels of command. The immediate aftermath for Task Force 1-33 Armored was a landscape of smoking steel and shattered earth, a stark testament to the sudden, overwhelming violence. The 33rd Armored Regiment, specifically its 1st Battalion, bore the brunt of the ambush, its forward elements obliterated in a matter of minutes. Damage reports filed in the subsequent hours detailed the catastrophic losses, painting a grim picture of tactical surprise and superior firepower. The lead company, Company A, effectively ceased to exist as a cohesive fighting unit. Of its 17 M4 Sherman medium tanks, 14 were total losses, their hulls ruptured by high-velocity kinetic penetrators or consumed by internal fires ignited by exploding ammunition. The remaining 3 M4s sustained disabling damage, rendering them immobile and combat ineffective. This represented an 82% combat loss rate for the company's primary fighting vehicles. Personnel casualties within Company A were equally severe. Unit diaries and after-action reports indicated 47 killed in action, primarily tank commanders, gunners, and drivers caught in the direct impact or subsequent inferno. Another 23 men were wounded, many with severe burns or shrapnel injuries, requiring immediate evacuation. The attached infantry platoon from the 36th Armored Infantry Regiment, riding on the back of the Shermans, also suffered heavily. With 18 killed and 12 wounded in the initial volley, Company B, following closely behind, fared only marginally better. While not directly in the path of the initial ambush, its advance was halted abruptly, and it became a target for the flanking Tiger. 3 of its M4 Shermans were destroyed by direct hits, and another 2 were immobilized by track damage. The accompanying infantry, dismounting under fire, sustained 11 killed and 9 wounded as they sought cover in the open fields. The psychological impact on the surviving American troops was profound. Interrogation files from later encounters revealed a pervasive sense of shock and disbelief. The sheer scale of the Tiger's destructive power, previously understood in abstract terms from intelligence briefings, had become a terrifying reality. Many accounts spoke of the Tiger's apparent invulnerability, their shells bouncing harmlessly off the Sherman's frontal armor, fostering a deep-seated apprehension that would linger for weeks. The battalion's support elements, including reconnaissance jeeps and half-tracks, were also caught in the periphery of the engagement. 2 M3 half-tracks, carrying mortar teams, were struck by errant shells and machine gun fire, resulting in 7 casualties and the loss of their vehicles. The rapid disengagement of the German tanks, melting back into the tree line, left the American forces in disarray, consolidating their remaining strength amidst the wreckage. The immediate operational consequence was a complete halt to the task force's advance. The momentum of the American thrust was broken, and the objective of securing the crossroads was temporarily abandoned. The remaining combat-effective tanks, numbering just 13 M4 Shermans from the entire battalion, were pulled back to establish a defensive perimeter, awaiting reinforcements and a clearer understanding of the forces they had encountered. The incident prompted an immediate reevaluation of intelligence concerning German heavy armor concentrations in the sector. Prior estimates had suggested a scarcity of Tiger tanks, perhaps 1 or 2 at most, operating independently. The appearance of 5 coordinated Tigers, emerging from a seemingly innocuous Churchyard, forced a stark recalibration of threat assessment and tactical planning for future engagements. Normandy, June 1944. The encounter at Villers-Bocage, though a German tactical victory, sent tremors through Allied command structures, particularly within the American sector, where the perception of Tiger deployments was already shifting from isolated anomalies to a more substantial threat. The detailed after-action reports, coupled with intelligence summaries from captured documents and prisoner interrogations, began to paint a picture of increased Tiger availability, directly contradicting earlier assessments that had largely confined significant numbers to the Eastern Front or specific defensive strongholds. This shift in understanding was not instantaneous, but a gradual accretion of data points, each engagement adding weight to the growing concern. The immediate impact manifested in revised intelligence estimates, which, by late June, formally acknowledged a higher probability of encountering Tiger I and even the newer Tiger II tanks across the Western Front, especially in areas designated for critical counterattacks or defensive lines. This intelligence directly influenced operational planning, leading to a reevaluation of attack axes and a greater emphasis on combined arms tactics to neutralize the heavy German armor. Planners began to integrate more robust artillery support and close air support into tank infantry assaults, recognizing that frontal engagements with Sherman tanks were often suicidal. The strategic implications rippled through the logistical and industrial pipelines. Production logs from Detroit and other manufacturing centers, already churning out M4 Shermans at an astonishing rate, began to reflect a renewed focus on anti-tank capabilities. The 75mm main gun, while effective against most Panzer IV variants, was demonstrably insufficient against the Tiger's frontal armor, as evidenced by numerous damage reports from engagements across France. This stark reality accelerated the deployment of M4 Shermans equipped with the higher velocity 76mm gun, a weapon that offered a marginally better chance of penetration, though still often requiring flank shots. Beyond immediate gun upgrades, the long-term impact spurred further development in tank design, pushing for heavier armor and more powerful main armaments. The M26 Pershing, a tank already in development, saw its priority escalate, with engineers and ordnance officers scrutinizing every aspect of its design to ensure it could stand toe-to-toe with the formidable German heavy tanks. The pressure to field a tank capable of matching the Tiger was immense, driven by the battlefield realities that intelligence reports now unequivocally confirmed. The Tiger problem became a central tenet of Allied tank development, influencing everything from ammunition types to suspension systems. This period also saw a marked increase in the study of German tank tactics and vulnerabilities, with dedicated intelligence units analyzing every recovered Tiger wreck for weaknesses in armor plating, vision ports, or track systems. Interrogation files from captured German tank crews provided invaluable insights into their operational doctrines, maintenance challenges, and combat experiences, further refining Allied counter-tactics. The collective knowledge gained from these encounters, particularly the early, shocking ones, fundamentally reshaped Allied armored warfare doctrine, moving it away from a reliance on numerical superiority alone towards a more nuanced understanding of combined arms and technological parity. The lessons learned from encounters with the Tiger, especially the stark reality that 5 heavy tanks could hold off a significantly larger force, cemented the understanding that quality, in certain contexts, could indeed trump quantity. This understanding informed not just immediate tactical adjustments, but also the broader strategic outlook on future armored engagements, emphasizing the need for a balanced force capable of confronting any armored threat. The first M26 Pershing tanks, bearing the weight of these hard-won lessons, would not see combat